Welcome to Follow Your Joy podcast, where intuition is the doorway to your elevated creativity, more joy, and prosperity. I'm your host, Marla Diane, and I've been living an intuitive life for decades as a creative. That translates to transforming creative entrepreneurs' lives for over 27 years through two businesses as a business strategist and a life designer. And prior to that, an entertainment publicist and talent manager. Follow Your Joy is an entrepreneurial resource for creatives sharing their challenge to victory stories through the lens of listening to their intuition. It's time to make joy your inner GPS for life and business decisions rather than lean on your logic and reason first. You'll not only be following what is most authentic for you, but you will live the beautiful life meant just for you. Want to learn how to access, trust, or up-level your intuition? Join me in the conversation to find out how. All right, so creatives, how are you doing today? I wonder if you're like me, where I've always been intrigued by what makes a high achiever succeed, and what really happens behind the scenes of what I call a struggle to victory story. It's kind of a journalism angle. It's also a great brand story angle. So my guest today will astound you as well and inspire you with just that, her story, right? Because I'm a journalist at heart since, oh my gosh, the 80s. When I graduated with a BA in PR, right? BA in PR journalism, and monetized it into a 22-year career as an entertainment publicist. Super fun, super dynamic. And all that was prior to, of course, the 16 years as coaching. So all that to say is I love illuminating the human spirit, right? The core of the person that makes them who they are. And that's what you're going to hear today with Eugenia. So I welcome you to Follow Your Joy podcast.
Well, thank you for having me here.
You're so welcome, of course. So today's interview is about you, the woman behind the brand and the business, and how you developed into a world-renowned clairvoyant, right? Business strategist and messaging energetics coach, right? Which my audience are very familiar with that. And you've got 2 decades of experience, and everyone, she's also a best-selling author of 4 books, and she'll talk about the newest one today. She's a speaker and, of course, a podcast host. So today is not so much about the clients, right, who love and respect her, or the efficiency of her coaching, which I'm sure she'll share that, to help her clients get their high achieving results. Because they'll speak for themselves. We all know about that. But today is really about exploring this captivating story behind this genius woman and her clairvoyance, right? So she's generated multiple 7-figure revenue working with clients around the world as she traveled to 27 countries, teaching her methodology between being featured also over 100 publications, and has helped thousands of clients activate momentum, catalyze awakening, right? We all know that lovely transformation, and a fast-track business success, and turning timelines of decades into months. Amen to that. So tell us, and we cannot wait to kind of dive into this, really, what is the secret, right, behind your success? So I want to briefly start with and mention a topic that we both not only advocate, we live, we love, we coach, right? We teach, which is the vital importance of blending the masculine energy and strategies of being a high achieving, right, woman entrepreneur with the powerful feminine arts of intuition, desires, metaphysics, spirituality, creativity, fun, play, adventure, right? Receiving, allowing. So, Eugenia, imagine having a world where all women were raised with their feminine, right, energy and their intuition, leading their lives, leading them running their business, right? Blended, of course, then with those vital dynamics of the masculine principle. So talk to me about that. Imagine that and give us an idea of where did that originate with you? How did that become part of your life and part of your coaching?
Well, I think a lot of times for women, especially in like lately, because business was typically a masculine world, when women started to enter into that world and generate serious income, not as somebody who inherited money or somebody who was just like a socialite, but somebody who actually did something, produced value, and then got paid for it, that was like there was no template for that. It was pretty much do it the male way or you don't have any other way. And what's lately happening is as we're moving into the age of individuality, is that we are almost like asked to discover our uniqueness and then follow that inner drum, follow that internal voice that tells us to do things our own way. So self-mastery suddenly becomes the most important thing. Because if you're not masterful, you don't know who you are and you get pummeled by your own emotional waves, and then you're not in control of yourself. And when we're not in control of ourselves, we try to control external environment. So,
Absolutely. So did that happen to you? In other words, where did that come from for you way back when? What was the defining moment? And I'll share mine, but what was the defining moment for you that this became an important platform to live by and coach?
well, I've built a lot of my life sort of much more on the masculine way until I burnt out. And then I kind of rebuilt it, incorporated more self-care, and I still burned out.
Mhm.
Then I rebuild it again with more space for myself, more self-care, allowing myself to have more and receive more, and I still burned out. So after a third burnout, I realized that I've created an incorrect structure in my life where I was serving my business instead of it serving me. So I had to readjust. And it wasn't so much about the clients. I love the clients. It wasn't about the money. I made the money, tons of it.
Right.
It wasn't about like any of this external stuff. It all looked great on paper,
Yeah.
but I was like dying on the inside. So I had to internally
Mm.
find what was missing. And what was missing for me was space. And I'm actually naturally a doer person. So I don't need to have like this, space where I do nothing. Like I like doing things. I'm actually naturally that way. But there is a difference in doing because you have to, like there's a pressure and forcing,
Mhm.
following some to-do list versus doing it because you're inspired and creative. So for me, that was a main adjustment, is that where my body could not keep going the way I was running my life and my business. And it was a choice of, okay, do I just stop my business? Like I'm just done. I retire. I mean, I had enough funds. I could retire and I was pretty young, but then what would I do with the rest of my life? Like, that's not what I wanted. I am a high achieving person that's pretty driven to serve humanity. So I had to find a different way. And at first I thought, well, I'll just write books. Okay, that ran out pretty quickly. And then it was like, okay, well, maybe I'll just travel. Okay, that ran out quickly too. And then I realized, no, I still want to work with clients and still want to serve, but I must do it differently if I go at it again, but from a different angle. And that different angle for me was to step up from the lower to middle level business to a higher ticket business and readjust the self-worth component as to how much value I actually deliver and what I'm willing to charge for it, and how my whole business needs to change from that level. That created sort of like, you can go hard for a sprint, you just shouldn't have to do it for a marathon. And that was kind of like, it's a thing I teach my clients now, but that was for me a huge realization that this kind of a sprint I was doing it continuously, and
With no
nobody can do that
stopping.
even.
Yeah.
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 So
Exactly.
what I realized is that no, I can still sprint because I actually like that
Yeah.
fast-paced momentum, but
Yeah.
then I need to have space where not. So now I work 1 to 2 days a week, and I make plenty of money. I serve my clients very deeply. I'm known, I'm in a lot of places, but all of this is strategized. It's automations, it's the back end business that works very efficiently. It's how I
Mhm.
positioned, it's where I choose to put my energy to leverage
Right.
what I'm actually offering. So these little adjustments, I had to come up with them to honor my feminine side. My feminine side was always in the business because I use intuition and my clairvoyance naturally for
Sure.
everything that I do, but it wasn't for me. It
Right.
was always for them.
Right.
So it's kind of like I always joke that because I was born this way with being able to see things and help people, I've done that since I was like 2 years old. By the time I was 14, I was already seeing paying clients. So I've never actually had my own life. Like my life was always for people.
Yeah.
And then by the time I was 28, I think, when I burned out, I had to change things. And then I was next one at 30 something. Again, I had to change things. And now I'm almost 50 and I'm living my life for past, decade something the way I want to, because I realized that the service to them should also be service for me, which
Absolutely.
included some space for
Bravo.
me.
I know, and that's one of the biggest challenges that us high achieving women deal with. I mean, we serve the same type of client, if you will. It's the only way I know how, just like you. It's we relate with that. But here's the challenge is, and the good news, we have solution to that, which is this blend, right? Is that every high achieving woman, they burn out because they're in the masculine way too much. And it's no fault of anyone's until they're taught, right? How to, just like myself, I so wanted to learn this from my coach because I too, that's what happened with me is I had a burnout in year 9 of my 16 years of coaching. I said, I cannot continue this. I feel like a manufactured version of myself. Where's my creativity? Where's my fun? Where's my play? Where's my intuition? Where's my heart? Right? So same thing is that defining, moment, and it's always some sort of a challenge. That gift then in the challenge is what you came up with, right? Is where's that balance, right? I'm a high achiever. I love achieving. I love helping people. I love doing well in life, but you know what? Not at the expense of your well-being. And that's what I'm hearing what happened for you. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of it, I think, was the value change because
Mhm.
understanding of this dynamic has always been there since I teach others how to do it.
Yeah.
But you know how you teach others, but then sometimes you forget to apply it onto
Do it
yourself. So
yourself.
for me, it was like, oh, I had to switch where my service value was. Service is one of my highest values. And besides like independence and freedom and doing things my way and stuff like uniqueness. But service was always the thing. Like I almost couldn't imagine myself living for myself. Everything I've ever done was for, people that were around me. And because of my ability, I always had people coming to me, even when I didn't want to. Like when I tried to go to college and do something else, it's like people were still following me. So I had to still do the work. But
Mhm.
at some point, I had to shift the value from service doesn't mean for them. Like I serve them better if I serve me.
That's right.
So that self-inclusion part, once I got that, then like I had the tools already. I just didn't apply them onto myself because it never occurred to me
Yeah,
before.
sure. Yep, makes total sense. So talk to us then, speaking of background, is talk to us about, so your unique, I would say your core uniqueness is the clairvoyance. Give us a little background in that. So I think I heard you say you knew that from 2 years old, that you were
Oh, I knew
clairvoyant.
that from the moment I was born. I never lost consciousness. So most people, when we come into a lifetime, we kind of fall asleep and then we wake up sometime
Right.
later on. And that's when people call it awakening, right?
Yeah.
I didn't have that because I didn't fall asleep. So I remember being inside my mother. I remember being born. I remember being a little baby in the body and, not being able to talk to people. But I always felt like I never was a child. I was a grown up in a little body, and I had to wait for the body to catch up for me to speak and communicate. So I tried to do it through drawings. By the time I was 2, I was already making pictures for people, trying to give them advice. And,
Is
they
that
clued
right?
in. Oh, yeah. They clued in and they started to see like, oh, okay, so I think she meant that. And if I did this, ooh, it worked better in my relationships, or, oh, it worked better for my career. So then they started like, okay, little one, draw something. So then I started to do that. And I kind of thought of myself like, oh, I'll be an artist because I can draw very well and I can paint very well. So, okay, I'm going to use my artistic ability. I went to art school. I have like degrees and all of that. I've studied all of it. Like, I'm very good at this. And the part I was good at is actually the consciousness behind it. So that's how it eventually became coaching for business, because that's really what my
Yeah.
core is about, to help people find how to leverage their unique badass inner magic to make something
Yes.
happen in this life and get paid for it. But
Absolutely. Mhm.
as far as like, did I know this from the beginning? Yeah, I almost like don't know how not to know that. This is why I always felt that my life was of service. And, it came with its own problems, obviously. Like, I was ostracized and bullied and seen as witch and a weirdo
Wow.
and all that stuff.
And
The
that's what,
typical teenage crap.
yeah. And that's exactly what I'm getting at is almost every, intuitive, clairvoyant, anyone that's got those, if you will, powers, right? Those natural powers, growing up is not easy with that.
No.
Right? And they're not easily embraced, not only by the person, but also those around them. And that's what I'm asking is how
Mhm.
was that for you? I get the end result. It's who you are today, and it's fabulous. You're changing, amazing lives of all these women. But let's go back to that. Let's go back to childhood. What was that like for you being this
It,
ultra
yeah.
clairvoyant child? Yeah.
Well, I saw things that others didn't see. By
Yeah.
the time I was 3.5 years old, I figured out that. Because I remember having conversation with my father, and I was standing in a doorway. Next to me was my friend that I talked to all the time. And I was trying to explain to my father about my friend and what he's saying and what I'm saying, and that we're having disagreement. We're having two different opinions on a subject. And my father was saying, okay, I see you and I see the doorway. There is no one else here. So that's when I finally figured out that, okay, the people around me only see things they can bump into.
Mm.
If I can bump into this thing, then they think it's real, like a wall.
Sure.
But
Cool.
I
Mhm.
see like 99 other percent of what I see, they don't see. So
Right.
that made it for a really interesting internal dilemma, because I had to decide that either, okay, I'm crazy, like I'm wrong, they right, something wrong with me, or I'm right and I see truth and they all somehow messed up and confused and asleep and there's something wrong with the world, or some other choice. So I came up with a third choice. It's definitely depends on a level of consciousness. So somebody's perception is smaller at
Yeah.
a certain level of consciousness, and then it grows wider and wider. So I have more conscious awareness, so I have wider perception. That helped tremendously, because then when I would interact with people, I stopped trying to feed them everything that I saw, and then them hating me for it or judging me for it or telling me like I'm know-it-all and all that stuff. Instead, it became more like, oh, I can now figure out which level you're at. So how much can I tell you and how much I shouldn't? And to my
Uh,
surprise, a lot of people I actually couldn't say anything to. So
sure.
then I became
Right.
almost like hidden. So some
Mm,
people didn't even know this thing about me, because
that's right.
to me, they were at the level where there was no plug-in for me to deliver anything. So then I just wouldn't. But, how rumors and things kind of circulate. So after a while, it's still people ended up knowing. And then I always was put in that position where mm, it was like a taboo to ask me something. So they would do it in secret. So they would in public like put me down, but in secret they would come to me for advice. It was really weird dynamic.
It's like,
Yeah,
don't let anyone know I'm actually going to her for advice.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. So at what point did you finally kind of come out, embrace it, and just live your truth?
When I was 14,
Yeah.
that's where
Okay.
I decided that in school, I think I said something. I was mostly homeschooled, but I did go occasionally. So when I did, one at the time, somebody asked something and it was wrong and it was about another person. And I saw suddenly this whole dynamic of like the ripple effect of how it's going to affect this other girl about whom this was said. And like, this is going to be like trauma for her lifelong and stuff. And I'm like, no, I'm going to be the one that breaks that pattern. So I stood up and said something. Of course, didn't get much love for that. But after that, it was just like known fact that that's what I am. And most of my clients when I was 14 were not kids. They were grown-ups, their parents, and people that were, much more adult than me, 14 years old. But they were looking for something that it's almost like they knew something is missing, but they couldn't even figure out what it is. Like half of the time, there was no question. Not like, should I divorce or not? Or should I do this? Like, it's not this kind of a black and white thing. It's more like my life is somehow wrong. Like, what's wrong? And then my clairvoyance is about seeing timelines and possibilities. Like, I see what is a natural way for some, like, there's so many different ways how we can be psychic and conscious and whatever.
Sure.
So mine happens to be like, I don't have the future telling, like I can't tell what the future will be and stuff like that, but I can see timelines. So if somebody tells me they are doing this, I immediately see what is their actual soul mission, like what they meant to do versus what they are doing. And then variations of that. And then I can tell them what's in the way, like, why are they feeling the way they're feeling? Because maybe they following their conditioning and something like that. Yeah. So that's where it started. And, first clients were sometimes quite tough. Like one guy told me how he killed somebody. And I was like, okay, wow. Okay. I'm in a room with you right now. And I'm 14, yeah. And some other stuff. Like, I mean, it was weird because I didn't have the human social maturity, even though I had the spiritual maturity. Right. So a lot of, I think, my education in this lifetime was actually in helping me to become more eloquent about how to describe what I'm seeing, because I could see it like movies, I could see it like colors, but I knew how to translate it. But it doesn't help if I say like, oh, your liver is this green color and it needs to be a little bit more ochre, and there is this flow of energy that seems to be blocked into your second chakra, and that's why your throat is not moving energy. And they're like, okay, wow, I don't know what that means, but thank you. And now I would say like, oh, that's because you're envious about this person, you killing your own desire, and this is why you can't speak. And it's the same thing, but I've learned to say things in a way that the person can understand by translating this thing that I see, that I've always seen. Yeah. So most of my self-education was in how to communicate.
Got it. Amazing. So at 14, and I know this is when I read your bio, I mean, that was really a remarkable point in your life. At 14, you've got these clients, you've got a business, and so you were being hired, obviously, for your clairvoyance, right? This was more of life coaching.
For my wisdom, knowledge, ability to see something. People called it different things. Some considered me a shaman, which I don't think of myself as that. Some taught me as a guide. Some taught me as energy healer. Like, they're different labels, but yeah, essentially.
Okay. So who were your mentors, if any, that were influencing you, be it family members, other types? Who were your mentors growing up and then into your career?
My grandmother, rock musicians, and non-physical beings.
That's a great headline. Grandmothers, rock musicians, and what was the third one?
Non-physical beings.
Non-physical beings. There it is, everyone. There's the whole podcast right there.
Yeah, that's pretty much my mentors. My grandmother was absolutely the most amazing human being that I think helped me tremendously to just survive human experience while she was alive. So she kind of raised me more than anybody else, I would say. So she was just my rock. My family, all high achievers, like 3 degrees each, doing this amazing thing. So they're all doers, but they kind of couldn't quite get me. It's my mother decided that I don't have the gift. So from her side, no, you're normal. No, you don't have.
She was in denial.
Yeah. She was in complete like, no, you're totally normal. There's nothing going on. Nothing going on. So that was her approach. My grandfather, who's a scientist, his approach was, let's study her. So I'm going to give her like little things and then see what she says. And then he'll go in the library and research it and be shocked to find out that like I knew about microbiology or about Egyptian history or about something else that I couldn't possibly know, let's say at 5. So his approach was scientific and he'll keep like journals and study me.
So funny.
My father, who's a very dramatic person, he kind of told like, that's cool, great. Let's tell everybody we have a kid that can see things.
Oh God, no.
So that's just to tell you one family. This is completely opposite opinions.
Yeah. So yes. Why was what was it about your grandmother that was so special that she connected with you?
She knew how to manage community. She was kind of the pillar of community. Like our door was always open. There was always somebody at the kitchen table that she was helping, that like we knew all our neighbors and everything in the like our whole community. She was somebody who never judged, always unconditional love. At the same time, super smart, super clear, high level intelligence. She kind of had this kind approach, and I think she naturally saw the good in people but also the potential. And because I was born with seeing timelines and possibilities, potential is kind of like I naturally see it, so we connected at that, because she would see it somebody who's in a very bad situation and see the same things I saw, only I saw it from my clairvoyance and she saw it just from I think her heart. So we had a lot on that. Plus she always told me I can be anything I wanted. And being neurodivergent, being a different type of a human anyway, with my perception, being homeschooled, like a lot of times kids would have grown up with like, there's something wrong with you. And because of her, I did not. Because of her, I grew up with like, hey, I can do anything. I can be a president. I can be an astronaut. I can write books. I can like do anything I freaking want because I'm me. It just, I have to work at it, but I can do it. So that imprint came from her. And I'm always grateful for that.
Yeah, no, and every child needs that adult in their life. They all, there's always going to be one, whether it's a parent, an uncle, an aunt, grandparents. You can do this. They have that belief in you.
Yep.
That's really terrific. Okay, let's move into, so follow your joy means the premise of this. It's a life strategy. It's not just a good feeling, right? Meaning I stand by and I love supporting people and listening to their joy. It's part of your intuition. So talk to me about what brings you the most joy in doing your business.
Seeing somebody step up into who they meant to be. That to me, it's like orgasmic, because somebody like I see this. So to me, it's not new. Like I can see that in a person from like the moment we're having a sales call. Right. So before they even started working with me, but then as they do the process and something like a light bulb goes off and they like say things from a different level, or they own energetically themselves differently, or they go for like pitching themselves to some event they before couldn't even imagine, even going near, or something like something that to them is actually a very big thing, but they're doing it almost nonchalantly, like they embody that and now it's just new, now it's normal, like a new normal. To me, that's like, oh yeah, oh, you got this, like you got to that thing, yeah. Because that's like the thing I saw, and with whatever they were, they finally collapsed the time and stepped into that quantum potential.
That's fantastic. Yeah, though, I mean, the whole transformational process and watching, and I obviously share that with you, and like I'm right there with you. Is, number one, you have to love humanity to do what we do, right?
Yeah.
You have to love humanity. And to be able to, yes, watch and witness the transformation of somebody who didn't necessarily believe or could even think of doing XYZ, and then them doing it or doing it even better, the best. Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And sometimes they surprise me actually, because I'm thinking, well, it's going to be like a stepping stone.
Yeah.
And they just like skip the stepping stone right to the top. And I'm like, you go, girl. Like, whoa, that's awesome. Like I had a client who she was wanting to step into this next level and then pitch this higher level program and stuff. And, we were thinking of, $10,000, maybe 12, maybe 15. And then she comes back to me and she says, okay, so this is my program. This is what I came up with. I feel so aligned. And then the price is 25,000. I'm just sitting there going like, okay, this is like
Yeah.
much more than what we were talking about, but let's see how you can do it. Very first sales conversation, she sells it. I'm like, ooh, okay. So she incorporated everything, but it's almost like ahead of even like what I thought she would do. So
Yeah.
that's, to me, this is like huge. This is
It's,
why I love working with people, is
yeah,
because to see that quantum leap
that's
every
right.
time, it's like you live in magic.
It is. And it is almost magic. I mean, I call it
Yeah.
that, when talking to clients in the beginning, when they sign up, and I'll explain, I go, look, I said, I want you to expect things start popping like popcorn for you. Don't make any logical sense of it. Just receive it. And it's kind of magical. So
Yes.
don't let your head try to figure it out. It's not going to work.
Yeah, I always say miracles are unreasonable. So you have
That's
to be willing to be unreasonable
that's
and
right.
dare to leap.
That's right. Dare to leap. Don't put logic in it. Just receive. Allow it to happen, and that's where those collapsing of the time frames happen. I love it.
Yeah,
Well,
logic has its place, especially in business. I mean, there's
sure.
strategies, there's like all that stuff. But
Have to
I
have
think that it's been so overdone, especially
it.
for women, like what we started today from like the masculine business kind of way. That's all logic, reason, and calculations and
That's right.
tracking metrics and stuff. I haven't tracked anything in my life and I make a lot of money. Like it's not needed. You do
Right.
need to know some basics, but if you have your ducks in a row, then the strategy becomes just like a piece of the puzzle that you can organize and keep up, but the rest of your energy can be free in this creative inflow.
That's right. Well, that's the feminine. And that's why
Yeah.
it's so important to lead with the feminine, because it's the way that I explain it to women so they can eventually get this is, look, the masculine, you must have both when you're running a business. And the blend is the masculine's the foundation to allow then the feminine to be free to do what it needs to do. But you've got to have the masculine with that structure, with that foundation, with the systems, so that you can then be in the creativity, in the expansion, all of that. So,
Yeah, and I find that for a lot of people, it's like they assume that there's some path to that. And I always go back to, who are you? Like my job is to help you be more you, not to be like me.
good.
So who are you? And then from that standpoint, we figure out if somebody is like more of a doer, like me kind of, that
Yeah,
then that means we need to work more on the feminine, incorporating the opening up and receiving and being in flow. But sometimes people come in and they way too far on the feminine. It's
yeah.
all intuition and creativity and it's all
Oh,
ungrounded and nothing happens. So
yeah,
then we have to actually work on structures to land that spaceship into something that makes money.
correct. Exactly. It's got to have a container, ladies, right? It's got to have a container. And then you can do your wonderful feminine for sure. So talk to me then about intuition, right? Which is also, both of us operate that way. And that's again part of the premise here. So share a story. I know you have gazillion of them, but share a story of listening to your intuition, right? That created a fulfilling result.
When I was running my company of international tours, and I was
Okay.
taking people all over the world to sacred sites, I was making very good money. I was very well known, and the company was doing phenomenally well. And we did tour after tour, and they were always booked. And then at some point, we were like, everybody was seeing like it's going up, it's going up, it's like getting better and better. And that was one of my burnouts, where I kind of felt like, okay, what the hell am I doing? Like, I
Yeah.
don't even want this. I don't like this. I mean, I like travel, but I'm like tired of this. And,
Mhm.
community people, it's like, that you're always on and you're
Yeah.
never off. So I actually decided, okay, my intuition keeps telling me I need to walk away. And it's
Mhm.
like, this is insane. I'm going to walk away from something that's like taking off like crazy.
Mhm.
But Yep, you're gonna walk away. So I walked away at the very top and I restructured everything, went completely working online and not in person, stopped traveling and being in hotels and teaching all over the place. And instead, just no, I'm going to be in my home office. I'm going to be just like this on video, and that's it. And I was correct intuitively, like it actually worked. It just took a couple of months to reset, and then I
Sure.
still had everything back. But it was a
Hmm.
very insane leap that I think most people would not have done.
Of course not. I mean, that therein lies the courage to trust, right? The intuition. So
Right. I went from in person to completely online.
yeah, so you were doing the same business, but you just turned it into an online business.
Not really even the same because I was doing spiritual tours. Is it like, imagine teaching a workshop at location,
Sure.
right? So it's a higher level program, but it's at location.
Mhm.
That's what I was doing a lot in addition to speaking. And
Okay.
I went into, okay, I can still be speaking, but now from home. And then I converted these programs that were location specific to more of an ongoing personal development and business programs that are, so I did modify my business.
Okay.
Actually, I think it switched the niche a little bit. Well, maybe pivoted slightly.
Yeah.
But I mean, there was definitely an adjustment there that wasn't like, oh, now I just announced to all the people we get to hang out online. Because
Gotcha.
back then online wasn't even the thing. So I went on phone instead of Zoom because
Yeah.
Zoom didn't exist. But I still shifted that. And when I made that shift, part of my fear was nobody would pay me to talk with me on the phone. Like I don't have my office for them to walk into anymore. Nobody would
Mm.
pay higher ticket prices unless I bring them to beautiful, Europe or Morocco or
Yeah,
Canary
sure.
Islands or whatever in a gorgeous hotel. Oh no, they still paid and it still worked. But I had to upgrade me and a lot of my messaging and marketing and positioning in the marketplace and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So that was like the work on the back end, but it paid off for me because it allowed that feminine to have a life.
Amen.
Yeah.
I know. So that was really your segue into coaching. I mean, that was
Yeah,
the
in a sense,
beginning,
right? Because I
right?
went from a teacher to a coach more.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that to me, it sounds like that was the beginning of the segue, of the transformation, the evolution of who you were and how you were teaching.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very
Yeah.
good. Okay, beautiful example. I love that. Okay, let's see. Do you have, so your podcast, am I correct in saying that it's called Conscious Coaches on Mission? Yeah?
Yeah. Conscious
On a
coaches
mission?
on a mission.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is where I talk to women who kind of like achieved already something that is amazing and they followed their heart, intuition, soul, whatever we want to call it,
Okay.
guidance,
Yeah.
something to like somehow make that happen.
Okay.
And we kind of try to decode like what did you do? Like how did this thing happen?
Okay.
Because sometimes it would be like, oh, I was in a corporate, I was doing this, I was like going well to the top, and then I died inside. So
Yeah.
then it went, I switched and became, I don't know, essentially like an energy healer or pet communicator. It's like, okay, how
Yes.
did you, like what happened? So this is the kind of stuff that
So it's,
I talk with
so it's
people on my podcast.
storytelling. It's that journey, kind of like what we're doing with you,
Yeah,
is
kind of
where
like
it's,
a journey.
yeah, it's the journey. It's like what happened to them. So where can people, so again, everyone, it's Conscious Coaches on a Mission podcast. And where can they listen to this?
Anywhere where podcasts are, Apple,
Anywhere.
anything, just,
You,
essentially we put it on all networks and it's on my YouTube channel as well, Eugenia Oganova Wealth Energetics. So
okay.
you can check me out there. And this is like a lot of, I think, the value of what I deliver. It's like there's so much complexity to it. That's why I write. That's why I produce some content that's like available for people, essentially evergreen,
Yeah.
because I think that that's part of like how we serve community, that there's always way to learn, even if you're not necessarily committing to working with the person as a coach, you can still get the
Yeah.
benefit of their journey or whatever they're sharing.
Terrific. Okay, good. All right. So to wrap it up, is one last question. So obviously, based on your vast experience, what are some key advice that you want to give to our creative entrepreneurs listening?
Dare to follow your dream. A
Yes.
lot of times we get this thing, I'm either too much or I'm too little.
Yeah.
I'm too loud, I'm too much, I'm too excited, nobody would like me. Or I'm not ready. I'm not good enough. Who am I to? So too much or too little are both BS. So ask yourself, what are you more committed to? Your vision, your dream, or your BS? Because that's really the choice. Because
Amen.
if you're committed to your vision, then all this story you're telling yourself of, I'm not this or I'm too much that, it's literally just an excuse to keep you from your dream.
Correct.
So
Amen.
that's one advice. And the second advice is if you can imagine it, if you can dream it, it's yours, it's available for you. This is how quantum works.
Yeah.
So this is part of like the spiel I always give my clients is that you could not have imagined, envisioned, play pretended it, wanted it if it was not a possibility. You
Right.
literally would have been like, I don't know what you're talking about, Eugenia. But instead, you're like, oh yeah. Well, that means it could be yours. Now it's, figure out what are you committed to. So the stuff like, but how do I get there is a wrong question. It's
Yeah.
not how do you, it's who do you become. And when
Correct.
you become that person, you're naturally already there. And
Yeah.
who do I become is commitment question. Am I committed to my BS or am I committed to my vision? If I'm committed to my vision, who is this person? So as long as you're working more and more towards becoming her, that's how the how happens. And then, yes, then magical things happen and then opportunities come. Maybe you find the right coach that has just the right strategy to help you get there and so on. But just focusing on the how is actually a detour. The
That's it.
shortcut is focus on commitment and the vision.
Amen. Beautiful. Yes. Oh, we never rely on the how. That's the brain. That's the control, the ego mind trying to control you rather than allowing. And a lot of times we'll use it in our, camp here is it's universal, right? Universal intelligence is that there's vast opportunities. There's vast ways that this can show up for you and how to get there. Stop trying to control how it's going to look.
Exactly. It's 100% possible,
Yeah.
100% of the time. And within that, you choose your timeline.
That's
and
right.
Commitment to your choice is how you get there.
Amen. I love it. Okay, good. So, my dear, how can people get in touch with you? Where can they follow you? And what do you have to offer my listeners?
I have two things to offer that would totally help your audience.
Good.
One is my new book that's coming out. That's called Wealth by Soul Design. This is about how to create multi-6 and 7-figure brand. And it literally lays out my methodology on working with this inner uniqueness, this badass inner magic you have, and how to leverage that to step into high ticket market and get paid high ticket prices without feeling like you're twisting yourself into some pretzel that somebody told you to do, and instead actually do it by yourself the way you're meant to be. So that book, Wealth by Soul Design, is available. Obviously will be on Amazon and also on my website if you want the bonuses. So that's eugeniaoganova.com. That's where you can get the book and read about other stuff. And the second gift is I have a free training that you can watch when I go into this stuff I was telling about you here in more detail, where you can start to understand how you can get to that next level in your business without cookie cutter strategies, without a large list, without constantly having to launch, without having to be something you're not and like point on TikTok every day in order to get, clients, which is ridiculous concept, but all that stuff. And that training is soulstrategywebinar.com. That would get you to be much more clear as to what might be missing or what you might be doing incorrectly that's stopping you from getting to the place you want to get to.
Terrific.
And everywhere on social media, it's my name. So at eugeniaoganova.com is my website, and at Eugenia Oganova on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, anywhere.
Yeah, no, we'll put all that in the show notes. No worry about that. Okay, everybody. So Soul Strategy webinar.com. And of course, the book. I love that. Wealth by Soul Design. Wealth by Soul Design. Okay, yeah. So I'll have that for you in the show notes. All right. Wonderful talking to you. I loved your story. Yeah, it was really just.
Thank you so much, Marla. This has been a really fun conversation.
It's been juicy. I mean, look, come on, be honest. We could talk about coaching any day. It's like people hear this stuff all the time. I don't want to talk about coaching. You're magnificent at what you do. You create these 7-figure, women. Awesome. Let's talk about the story. That's where the juice is, don't you think?
Yes. I
Yeah.
think a lot of times people think that somebody who achieved because they look like it's easy, that it was easy. And it never is.
Yeah.
That's why comparison is never a good idea, because
Mm-mm-mm.
you don't necessarily always know the internal struggle the person had to go through, or some challenges they had to go through. And hearing these stories kind of takes the glamour off and makes you like realize who you really are,
Yeah.
and realize that, oh, I'm dealing with this issue and this other person had similar issue, but they like flipped it on its head. Like I made my sensitivity into an asset, and because of it I am who I am. When somebody else said, oh, it's a liability, this is like a bad thing about you, it's a weakness.
Yeah.
So it's like you choose, and you choose this on every little sub area. And I think
Yeah.
the more we hear that about other people, the easier it gets for everybody.
Well, it makes you relatable, and that's why I'm big about the brand story, the story behind the woman behind the business, right? Which is exactly why I wanted to talk about this, because it's our stories are meant to be inspiring to others. It's not about us, it's about how we can inspire others. And that's really what came out of this is, oh, wow, okay, she's a high achieving, 7-figure business owner, coach, etc. But really, how do you make yourself relatable? And it's just by your story, right? Everybody's got hurdles. Everyone has challenges. Everybody's got some part of it's the evolutionary story. We all have evolution that we're going through. So I love that. Thank you. Yeah,
Thank you.
appreciate that. Okay, everyone. Terrific. So you heard it here. You heard it from Eugenia. It's all about listening, right? The intuition. I mean, look what happened with her when she followed her intuition. And it was probably not even the most logical thing to do. So I encourage you, as you all know, I've been saying this for 2 years now, follow your joy, follow your intuition, because it's meant for you to live that beautiful life that you want. Yeah? All right, everyone, you take care, be well, and be blessed. Thanks, Eugenia. Bye-bye. Hey, thanks for listening. You can find more entrepreneurial stories and resources at marladiane.com. And while you're there, enjoy my free downloads to up-level your business and your life. And Instagram. It's my favorite place to hang out. Let's connect there. If you received inspiration from the episode, I'd sure appreciate a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. Until next episode, take care.